What's up, guys? So the votes are in and you guys decided that you wanted to see a performance radiator install in the 97 as the first repair that we do. So it's ordered, it's here, and it's time to get together and get this thing working. So to start this job off, you're going to need to take the upper engine mounts off, which is what I'm doing first. And since you need to remove the mount brackets as well, what I'm going to do is just remove one side of the dog bone like this on each side, and then remove the mount bracket bolts. And then you can actually take the mounts themselves with the brackets and everything out at the same time. You will need to loosen the other side though, so that there's enough flexibility in the mount there to be able to get them out. Otherwise, the dog bone won't move enough. A magnetic tool comes in handy if any of the bolts in these lower parts come out and get stuck inside. And these are all 13mm bolts, and the bolts that hold the dog bone on are 15 on both sides. With those out of the way, you can reach down pretty easily and undo the drain chock in the bottom and let the coolant out of the old radiator. So that's what I'm doing right here. Then once that's drained, go ahead and unplug your fans. Now on the 97, there are two separate fans versus most other years, it's one big shroud. The plug on the top is the same, but with this one, it goes to a little harness that splits it to the two other fans, and they need to be removed individually. Here I'm just taking the bolts out of the fan to remove it. I have one aftermarket fan, which is thin enough that I'm not going to need to remove it. So I'm going to leave that one in there, but I am going to take the other factory fan out. Once the two 10mm bolts are out, the fan should be able to slide up off the bottom mount and then straight out. Just have to wiggle it past some wiring. Next, I'm removing the tube that runs to the overflow. That comes off pretty easily. Just tuck that out of the way. Then, to get extra room to get the radiator in and out, I'm going to remove this fender brace right here. I'm actually not removing it all the way. I'm just loosening the big end and taking the two lower ones off. That way I can just swing it out of the way. Next thing I'm going to do is remove the upper radiator hose from the radiator side. There's no need to take it all the way out if you're not replacing it. So I'm just going to take it off of the radiator side and tuck it up here out of the way. Then remove the plastic pops that hold this shroud in. It pulls right off like this. Down here is where the lower radiator hose is, which is the next thing you need to remove from the radiator. I then removed the hold down on this side because it just makes it easier to get to the transmission lines. If you don't have an aftermarket slim fan, you probably need to remove this fan too at this point to be able to reach them. Make sure you do not drop that 10mm bolt because it will more than likely disappear. With those out of the way, the transmission cooler lines are pretty exposed. The size of these bolts or the nuts that hold these in will be different for certain years, but on this particular model, if I'm correct, it was actually a 16. Once those are removed, you can pull this shroud the rest of the way out of the way, untuck it from behind the filler spout, and you should be able to push the radiator back a little bit and pull it out. It will not come out super easy. They are pretty tight in here, but it should come out decently easy. Here I am having to fight with the radiator a little bit due to the fact that I forgot to remove the 1 10mm bolt that holds the transmission cooler lines to the bottom of the radiator. That is not there on some years, but is there on the 97. So it is now time to check out this new radiator. This is the one you guys voted for. This is the ZZP oversized radiator. Just pull this guy out of here. And this is it right here. Wow, actually really nice. It's lighter than stock. It's got all the same fittings as stock. I've got to screw those in. Those don't come attached apparently all the way. Let's just compare them. So here you can see the ZZP core is quite a bit thicker than the stock one. This is all aluminum construction, so it does have all of the intakes and everything welded on. These little fittings have to be tightened in, and there is apparently the oil level sender has to either be moved over, or I'm going to try to move over the plug because I don't actually run an oil level sender in mine. So let's see first of all if we can do that. Okay, this is what the plug looks like. And hopefully we can just put it in the same way. All you do is you put it in like that, half turn it, and it grabs, and then does not appear to grab nearly as well as it does on this plastic one. So we could potentially have a problem there. Yeah, it's not going to hold it. So I'm going to have to take a look at that, figure out what to do there next. Okay, see how easily this fits back down into the hole. Getting this started the right way is like 90% of the hassle here. Getting close. Put in there. Pretty much there, but I knocked the mount out. One mount is in. Both mounts are in. All right, and it fits in the hole pretty much perfectly. It fits exactly like the other one did. The core is a little bit bigger, which you can tell pretty obviously, but it's not bad. I'm going to need a wrench to tighten those down. All right, so to snug up these transmission fittings, you're going to need a 19mm wrench, and we have a winner. So at least on the 97, you do not use the adapters that it comes with, which would explain why they weren't tight in the first place, probably. Oh yeah, these are adapters. I'm stupid, never mind. Those are adapters for the other kind of line. So if you got the quick disconnect lines, you need those adapters, and if you don't, then you don't. The rain's getting worse, I can hear. Good thing I've got a canopy now. Okay, those lines are reattached. So the next thing I'm going to do is put the lower radiator hose back on. Okay, lower radiator hose is back on, fits perfectly, no problem there. That's gonna go. Now for fans, we're doing another change in that we are doing away with those crappy 97 style fans in favor of these, which are the same style that my 99 has. I think this is in several of the newer of that body style. I don't know what year exactly it changed. So these fit basically just like stock, except they are a much improved design over what the 97 came with. So there's a little bit of finagling in the bottom around the cooler lines, but once I get those in place, we should be in good shape. And of course, this having a shroud instead of being individual fans is an immediate improvement right there. Okay, now once we've got it in here and lined up correctly, I'll just take the 2 bolts it came with, start those in here, and bolt it down on each side. Is 1 bolt in, one more to go. So all finished and all buttoned up, and there's the ZZP cap. The only thing I will say, I did not use this top mount here, so I just put a zip tie around that. Both the sides bolted up fine. The wiring harness for the fans was the same between the two, so that was no problem. Everything else went together really well. I really didn't have to do much else. It fit together just like you would expect it to. I did need to add washers to those bolts on the sides of the fan. If you don't do that, expect that it'll pull right past the bolt because the bolt head is too small. But other than that, it's pretty good. So the final question to answer is this. Did it work? Does it still overheat? No. The answer is it did work, and it did not overheat when I redrove it. As a matter of fact, AC full blast, I drove it, got on it a couple times, came back, let it sit, held it at a higher RPM and idle and everything. I tried everything I could do to try to get it to overheat the way it was before, and it would not come above quarter gauge for any reason. That tells me two things. One, I think the old radiator was the problem, and two, this new radiator works really, really well, because even with the stock radiator, there was a little more fluctuation, which there isn't now. It seems like it stays dead on what it's supposed to. So, as far as the fit, the finish, the quality, the way the thing's built, I'm really, really happy with it. I think the radiator is built really well. It's strong, it's lightweight. It seems to work a lot better than the stock one. The price wasn't too bad for what it is either, and it went in with no problem whatsoever. So that was that. Any other questions you have, let me know down in the comments. Drop this video a like if it was helpful at all. I'm going to get out of here, but I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure you're subscribed so you see it. And I'll see you guys then. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.